Okay, welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it, and I want to say thank you to Devarim. She's not here, who offered me to give the class when she's not available, and I really appreciate being here and meeting all of you. It's so nice to join this group. It's really very, very special that we do it on a weekly basis. And I also started giving shiurim. For those who are interested, I started a series last week on the 3 weeks. Thank you. It was on Zoom, so I can send you the link if you didn't watch it. And I'm going to be giving again Bezrat Hashem Wednesday evening. It'll be a little bit later because for some people it was a little early. 8:30 Wednesday evening, and also will be recorded if anybody would want. I also mentioned that I'm also a life coach. If anybody's interested, I'm developing my business. I really would like to offer a free coaching session for anybody who'd like to try it out. And if you don't want to, then if you have someone you want to refer, that would be amazing also. Okay, so this week we're going to talk about Parashat Devarim. We just finished off Matot Masay. Finally, America has caught up with us. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. And we really need the chizuk right now. We really need, we need the strength during this time. We just started Rosh Chodesh Av. It's called Menachem Av. So Hashem gives us that nechama, that already at the beginning, we have the comfort of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. We have, Hashem really loves us and cares for us and wants us to be closer to Him. So even though it's a time of Puranut, it's a very heavy time, a lot of judgment, a lot of things, negative things that happen to the Jewish people, over the history of time, especially during this period of time. We have to be very careful, not to put ourselves in danger, not to do things. It's not just for no reason that Chazal decreed certain things that we abstain from. And, we really have to be careful because it is a time of Puranut. But at the same time, Hashem Chas v'Chalila doesn't want to punish us. We spoke about this in my other shir. It's a time that Hashem really loves us. He's an Av Rachaman, Av, Chodesh Av, Father, a loving Father. And we, Baruch Hashem, have this kesher with Him. It says. And we have to realize that even though we're in this difficult, challenging time, and there are things that are happening, we see what's happening around the world, a lot of anti-Semitism, a lot of negativity, we have to hold on to that emunah and knowing that a Kadosh Baruch Hu loves us. Now, it's hard to talk about when we talk about this week's Parsha. We start off right at the beginning of Devarim. It's interesting. If you look at the other Sfarim, I'll talk about just the beginning of Devarim is all about rebuke. It's Moshe Rabbeinu for 37 days. The last 37 days of his life is rebuking Klal Yisrael. And it's like, whoa. Like the whole Sefer is like mostly rebuke. At the end, Baruch Hashem, we have some brachot. But why was he doing that? We're going to talk about that today. And it's interesting that all the other Sfarim, let's say the first Sefer Bereshit, was a span of was it 2,000 years? I think it wrote down. So all the Avot, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, it was 2,000 years until we reach Mitzrayim, and there we're talking about the Midbar, and it's also a few hundred years, and then no, actually not, because it's the Midbar, so 40 years, right? But then like the whole Sefer Devarim is like only like a short period of time, but within that short period of time, there's so much that Moshe Rabbeinu wants to do. Why was he doing that? Why was that something that was so important? Yeah, he knew that he wasn't going into Eretz Yisrael, and he knew that Bnei Israel are about to enter, and Yeshua is about to take over. So really, a short answer to that is that he was preparing them. He had to prepare them into going into Israel. They had to leave the Midbar, the place of Chamama, the place where they were taken care of. There was man from the sky. There was, the Esh that led them, the cloud that led them, right? The Esh at night, the cloud during the day. The protection of Klal Yisrael with the Ananei Kavod. Of course, we know that there was times that certain people didn't do what they were supposed to do, and then unfortunately that generation had to die out. But still, this generation is about to go in. Moshe Rabbeinu had to prepare them. He actually had to show them that this is a time period for you to realize and recognize what is it that you did wrong. It wasn't just, and I'm going to read the beginning of the Parashat. It talks and it lists different names of places. Like it's interesting how it starts off. And where did he speak them? These are the words that Moshe spoke to all of Bnei Israel. Be'ever hayarden, bamidbar, ba'arava, mul suf, ben paran, uben tofel, velavan, v'chatzerot, v'dizaav. Where did he speak it? He spoke it in the midbar or mul suf? Or was it in Chatzerot? Like, where was it? Where did he speak it? Where is it? Why is it mentioning so many names? You're telling me where the place is and you're mentioning so many names. Like, just tell me where it is. You know, what's the destination? Right. And then he says, Achad asar yom mechorev, derech har seir, ad kadesh barnea, vayhi be'arba'im shana be'ashte asar chodesh be'echad lachodesh. It was Aleph Shvat. In the 11th month is Aleph Shvat. In the 40th year, Diber. That was the end of that pasuk. And it continues. So what's going on? Why are you listing all these places? So Rashi tells us it's not the place where he spoke, but rather he listed different places that Bnei Israel angered Hashem. But what were these places? They're not all names of places. He hinted them beremez. He said them in a hinting way. Why? Out of kavod, out of respect for Klal Yisrael. The Sifri talks about each one of the places also. And really the whole thing says, mipnei kvodan shel Yisrael, because of the kavod of honoring Klal Yisrael. So here we're going to talk about when you give rebuke. How do you give rebuke? It's very, very important. How do you give rebuke? What are you going to say? How are you going to say it? Very important how you say it. And here Moshe Rabbeinu was not coming to say, look what you did wrong here, and look what you did wrong here, and look what you did wrong here. But rather, he was trying to show them the places that you were and where you sinned and what happened there. What can you learn from it? And how are you going to change it towards the future? How are you going to be able to make a difference, right, in the future? And there are different sins that he mentions even afterwards. And we're going to talk about this process. I heard an amazing share last night. I was like, I want to hear something really good. I could share with the ladies. And oh, Hashem is l'chaven. I listened to Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, who's always very, very powerful. I could still give you the share if you want to hear the whole thing, but we will go through it. I actually will try to listen to the whole thing to talk about it. But before we talk about each one of this process that he went through of telling them the different places, to hint to them certain things that they had to learn from each one of these places, right? And it wasn't just to put them off. And so we're told.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
When you said, I don't think it was to put them off.
Not to put them off, I shouldn't say, but to bring them down, I'm saying. Not to put them down.
It's a matter of, I think, rather than punitive,
right?
It's rehabilitative.
Yes.
Just, to really teach them how to do better going forward.
Exactly. It's rehabilitative. Exactly.
And it's also, I mean, the men, I don't know if all the men who were supposed to die had died at this point or what.
Right.
But the women didn't die.
Right.
So they knew those places. They were there, and they, Baruch Hashem, resisted stuff, but they were obviously still affected by it. So they also had to learn from what they witnessed, and the environment, of course, rubs off on you, and you have to, process it in a way that's going to make you strong and, able to do without all the pampering that we had in the desert. Because now this is like the real deal. Now you're gonna have to,
you have to tough it out.
You're gonna have to really do the physical.
You're gonna have to tough it out. You're gonna have to really, right?
You're really challenged now.
Exactly.
You weren't even really challenged so much.
And they're not going to be dependent anymore. They're learning to become independent. They're learning to be able to. They're not going to have Moshe Rabbeinu. They're not going to have the same thing that they had, the comfort zone that they had. Sure.
This keeps going through my mind as you're talking.
Yeah.
That when I'm obnoxious to my children, it's to their benefits. They won't be dependent.
Right.
Actually, I used to say, when you say, you're such a mean mother, I go, you told me that I was good. Not necessarily, you say, Now they say I'm the best mother-in-law because I'm older and they're
Yeah.
married. And then
That's it.
kids and they think,
Yes.
okay, I'm looking back and
That's
it. Yeah, now the bad times. Thank you for getting all the.
So I want to talk about what does it mean to give tochacha, to give rebuke. You should surely rebuke your friend, but don't bring him to sin. We're going to talk about what that means. How we give rebuke. When we give rebuke. Who's giving the rebuke? All these things are very important. I'll start with the end. Who's giving the rebuke here? So we're told it's Moshe Rabbeinu. He's the leader. He knows them very well. He's experienced their ups and downs. But more than that, who is Moshe to give this dibur? It says, Ele ha-devarim. Dibur is lashon kasha. It's a harsh speech, not like amira, amar. So what is it that he's doing? Why is he the one that's giving it? When we're told about Moshe, we're introduced to Moshe Rabbeinu, we're told that he was kaved peh, right? He was, the pasuk says, ish kaved peh, kaved lashon, right? It was hard for him. Some say that he had a stutter. We don't know exactly what that means. It could be that he was able to speak. Actually, Moshe Shapiro says that he had so much to say that it was hard for him to articulate it. A tremendous amount of that understanding, and it was very, very hard for him to actually articulate it. It wasn't that he had disability, Hashem. But he, right? But he according to the Midrash, when he touched his, yes, yeah. But to be able to say, it's true, it is a disability. So who is he? He's somebody who couldn't speak, but what is he doing? At the end, he is the one that is giving over this dibur. And what does this teach us? A beautiful lesson. I was listening to Sivan Rav Meir. She gives, a journalist, and every week she gives Divrei Torah. She has a whole group that you can join on Zoom. Every week she has a speaker, and she speaks for half an hour on the Parsha. And she said, Shlichut merapa. The fact that he was the one to give over the rebuke, the tochacha, this in a way was his tikkun, so to speak, right? The whole purpose of Moshe Rabbeinu was his dibur, was him speaking. Even though this was his challenge, and what did Hashem tell him? You still need to be the leader, even if you have this challenge. So that teaches us a very important lesson, that we should never think that our challenges are the things that hinder us from doing our avodas Hashem. Our challenges are given to us to be able to do our avodas Hashem. That's what Hashem wants. With this challenge, with the difficulty, I have to be able to serve you, Hashem. And we ask Hashem for siyata d'shmaya. But we shouldn't think that, I don't have this, I'm not able to speak, or I'm not able to do this, whatever talent that people have. I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to do this. There's no excuses. You have to utilize whatever tools Hashem gave you, even those things that are, that are difficult for you, to be able to grow from them and to be able to use them, even the challenges, right? To be able to use it. How many times we have people, we spoke about this, that are so inspiring because of the challenges they went through, because of their loss, whether they lost somebody or they went through a challenge, an illness or something, and then they go and they give chizuk, to everyone else, because that makes them who they are. And so this is what Moshe did. He had his shlichut, even though he had his koshi. And what is the sharish of what is he doing? When is he speaking to them? He's speaking to them in a specific time. He's not just talking to them. It's right before he's about to die. So he's giving them rebuke at a certain point of his life where he knows he's giving them the tools to be able to move on. It's not some rebuke. So when you're rebuking somebody, when are you giving the rebuke? How are you going to give the rebuke? What is he telling them? He doesn't just tell them off, very carefully. So we're told very important how we give musar, that we have to say it also b'lashon raka, in a nice way, in a soft way. We have to first say the positive, especially with our children. Say the positive, say something good. If all they hear is negative, right? Then they're not going to hear They're going to turn off, right? Shut down. When you start telling them something that they did wrong. Actually, I think it was Rav Steinman said, for every negative or comment or rebuke, there should first be 5 positive. You know what I mean? Ratio 5-1. We have to always infuse the positivity so that when we say the negative, it'll be accepted. Also very important.
I have friends who always, would have to tell me certain things sometimes, maybe because of what her position was and my position. This was an issue where we
right.
Every time she wanted to say something, she always complimented me on something. And then she would say,
so nice.
Or whatever it is, and really, I just noticed that it's like, in life, that's like such a beautiful thing to be able to do,
It's a very hard thing, though.
Very hard.
And it's not necessarily like the parenting or friendly aspect, like working with people. That's also a recommendation is that if you're leading people, you're not going to get your leadership, whatever. You're going to be a better leader if you're able to give positives, and it's very hard to do that. Some people just like always look, it's like if you take a test, right, and you get like an 8, right, and then you bring it over, and why did you get a 20 on? What did you miss the 20 on? So like people focus on the negatives, but it's like it's our personal struggle to bring up the positives, and that's
exactly
it. But the advice or the tochacha should have a meaning. Like, what are you going to do with it? How is it meaningful for you to improve on?
Also, the Likutei Halachot, Rabbi Nachman says, are you ra'ui? Are you the one that is ra'ui, that's fit to be able to give the tochacha? Are you the right person to give them the tochacha? Not every person can give over the tochacha to just anybody, right? If you're a friend, you're obviously more apt to accepting something that somebody tells you than somebody like, off the street. Yes, we have a chiyuv to give the tochacha. It's very, very important. But a person has to be ra'ui lochiach. He has to be fitting to be mochiach. And what he's saying has to also be able to be accepted. What I wanted to say also is when we give the tochacha, so it's very important. I want to talk about just one more thing, dibur, right? The whole essence of dibur, speech, when we talk, right? What was Moshe doing? He was talking. He was saying it over to them. And when you say something over to someone, when you hear someone saying it, it makes an osham on you. Today, we live in a society, right? In the dictionary, now they added new words. The words are emoji, okay? And what was the other one? Selfie. There was no words like that before the dictionary. Now it became part of the dictionary. Right. It's part of the given. Emoji and selfie, yeah. So what do people do? Emoji, they send pictures, smiley face. Sometimes the smiley face is happy, sometimes it's sad, sad with a tear, happy with tears. Like, what does that mean? Already we know that sort of like expresses how a person's feeling. And they don't no longer write words. Now it's just, you send emojis, right? You send pictures. But really, that's desensitizing us. That there's no longer that dibur. The dibur is communication, that I'm able to speak to somebody, right? We used to pick up the phone. Now we text. And now it's going to not texting. Now we're sending pictures. Right. So where is the dibur? Where is that communication? Right. And really that's the desensitization, and it prevents us also from being able to relate to one another and being able, like we said, to accept what the other person's saying. If you're just sending an emotion like, I'm so upset, disappointment, like my kids say question mark, like, what's that emoji supposed to mean? They tell me I use the wrong emojis. I'm not part of like the new generation,
I just to look at all the things that I take that on. There are like hundreds of little things that you put on. And my husband is like,
so here, what is the essence of this tochacha, and how are we giving it is very, very important. Who is giving it is very, very important. And if we're adding, we said the positivity, and also it's a matter also of our outlook. Like when we look at something, when we have something in front of us, are we viewing it in the positive or are we viewing it in the negative? And the way we speak is the way our mind works, is what we're seeing it in a certain way. And what we're going to say is reflected upon what our thoughts are. And so it's so important that, is this the right thing to say right now? Like, am I looking at this in the right way?
Yeah.
We have to be able to have a positive mindset, a positive outlook, and then we look at things differently. We interpret the events differently, and then we automatically associate maybe certain characteristics to it, certain midot to it. So important to see the good in others. And Rabbi Nachman talks about the beginning of his Likutei Halachot. He talks about today we live in a generation that it's very hard for us to accept rebuke. It's very hard for us to hear the negativity. And really, we have to find the nekudat tova, within ourselves and then within others. Every person has a nekudat tova. It can't be, even in that negative, there's a nekudat tova. And it's so beautiful. He says that if we look at everybody's nekudot tovot, it's like a beautiful spectrum of beautiful colors. And he calls it like a zamra, that we have to dan the kaschut and see like a person who's, singing a song. It's like songs, because everybody plays a different role. Everybody has like harmony. Everyone has something that he has to offer to society. But when we look at the negative, why didn't she do that? How could she do that? Why didn't she do this? Why didn't she say that? Right? We're judging them. We're already in judgment. We're already looking at the negative perspective. We need to look at the good of a person. And if we looked at the good of a person, we say, maybe she did that because she had a hard day. Maybe she has certain pain that she's carrying, right? And this is our avodah during the 9 days, to see that really the good in everybody. Because the whole purpose of the Beit HaMikdash being destroyed and us living in being in the 9 days right now, coming closer to Tisha B'Av, is remembering, why am I not taking a shower in hot water? Why am I not going swimming like I'm used to? Why am I not enjoying? It's not about, I can't do this and I can't do this and I can't do that, all the negatives, right? But really what's behind it? Chazal wanted us to be sensitive to this time period where there was so much destruction going on, right? Different world wars happened during Tisha B'Av, and the Holocaust, like just the negativity, all that stuff. We're supposed to feel the heaviness. We're supposed to feel it, but not to the point that it brings us down, to the point that it brings us up. The whole purpose of having, we said, a fast day, of being able to connect to that time period is to do tshuva. The Rambam tells us the whole point of us doing tshuva is to me'orer in us that there's something in me. There's something that I need to be able to show people. I have to be able to improve in myself so that I can be who I really am. And when we are not in judgment of others, when we're not in that blockage, when we're not looking at the blockages, we're looking at the openness, we're looking at the goodness, we're looking at the beauty of someone. Not what they didn't do, but what they did do, the perspective, even with our spouses, even with our children. It starts with our homes, right? That is what will bring us to Ahavat Chinam. And Ahavah is Yichud Hashem. Ahava brings us to Yichud Hashem. The whole purpose of doing this tshuva is to bring us to be closer to Hashem, to believe that every person is a chelek elokam imar, that every person counts, that everyone matters, that everyone has a portion that they're supposed to, that every part of our body has a different function, right? So too, Klal Yisrael, we're all part of one unit. We each have a different tafkid. We're all here to fulfill something else. It's not, she's separate from me and she's Ashkenaz and she's Sephardi and she's this and she's that. No, we're all one unit. We're all together. And when I do my part and she does her part and I am able to unite and be okay with what she doesn't have or what I don't have and how I am different, right? Then I'm bringing more Yichud Hashem, bringing more Ahavat Yisrael. And we said last time that Ahavat Yisrael, Ahavat Chinam, is like also ben adam lemakom. It's not ben adam lechavero, because when you love a fellow Jew, you're loving Hashem. You're loving a part of Hashem. You're bringing this oneness into the world. You're bringing achdut. So people are asking me, my shiur, like, how come we're still in galut? There's so many thousands of years. What, the previous generations couldn't do it, and we're still here? And how come? Because there's still something that we're missing. We're still in that judgment. We're still in that negativity. We're still not realizing that when I do a chesed, I bring about the binyan. I'm building the building blocks to the Bet HaMikdash. And we don't think that what I do matters. First is the I. First, we have to look at ourselves. I have to love my fellow Jew like I love myself. Do I love myself? Or am I always in like negative self-criticism? I'm not good enough. I should have done this. I should have done that. Why didn't, like always. We're beating ourselves up. That's one. And after working on ourselves, also, how are we looking at others? Remember the perspective. When we see the good in ourselves, we're able to see also the good in others. Because it says, Kamayim panim el panim, ken lev adam el adam. Like the face of a person, right? In water, when you look in water, you see it reflected. So too, when people see your face, and I just heard a nice story that, I think Rabbi Yisrael Salanta came into a shul and he saw a person, he was feeling very he looked very negative. He looked very down. And he said, this is Reshut Harabim. This is a public forum. Everybody has challenges. Everybody has tzarot. Outside. That's like your private domain. He said on Shabbat, you cannot carry from the private domain to the public domain. Now you're in the public domain. You can't carry your stuff into here. Smile. Life is good, And that's really what it is. We have to be able to bring that, into our perspective, into our mindset, into our consciousness. It's really our dat. Rabbi Nachman says our dat is the ability to understand and to know that I am chashuv. I'm important. I count. I matter. And so do you. And we each are different. We look different. We come from different backgrounds, but it's okay. We're here to be able to work together to be one unit. And that's why we're still being metaken. We're fixing the sinat chinam of the previous generations. That B'ezrat Hashem, through our chesed, and there's a lot of chesed our community does, and there's a lot of good, but we're still not seeing, and we don't think that we are chashuvim, that we are anashim chashuvim, we're important. Look at Moshe Rabbeinu. He didn't want to even say the words. He said it beremez, because they were anashim chashuvim. They weren't some people, right? They were the level of nevuah. And so are we. We are their children. We are the part of this unit of the chelek elokam imah. We all have a very special neshama. Okay, I'm going to quickly zoom through a little bit of things that I wanted to say, because I want to get to the gist of the 9-step. That what's it called? The steps. What's it called? How many steps? The 12 steps. So today we're going to talk about the 9th step. Okay, so it's beautiful because he goes through the words. Let me just see one more thing. So so I want to talk about, I'm going to get into it just right away because there's so much to say. So really, the fact that we're in Galut, the fact that we're here in Galut is to bring us to the realization, Lashon Gilui, a revelation, to reveal to us that Hashem is in sorrow, right? Hashem is in pain. We are in pain because Hashem is in pain. The Chorban Bet HaMikdash means Chorban for everybody's homes. People are lacking, whether it's Parnasa, whether it's, Shlom Bayit, whatever it's Shidduchim, whatever it is, everybody has a personal Galut. We have to bring in the Aleph of the Geulah, the revelation of the Aleph into the world, to bring the oneness into Hashem, like we said. The Aleph is Echad. Aleph and Echad and Ahava, also synonymous. It's the Gematria, right? That when we love one another, we're bringing this Yichud Hashem, we're bringing the Achdut to Klal Yisrael. And that's what's going to bring us the Bet HaMikdash. So Rabbi Jacobson was talking about the different places we spoke about. Why is he listing all these different places? Why is he naming them? Because really what he's saying to us is that every single place served a certain purpose to teach us a certain midah, to teach us a certain koach that we're supposed to work on. And I was going to say it for the end, but I'll say at the beginning, it's interesting that there's 9 different places. He brings the Or HaChaim. The Or HaChaim talks about these different places, and he brings 9 different places. And we have the 9 days. So during this 9 days, I know we started, so we'll have to backtrack a little bit. We have an opportunity to work on one midah a day to lead us till Tisha B'Av. That should be a moed. That should be a time of celebration. It should be a happy occasion, Bezrat Hashem, and not a time of sadness and sorrow. Yeah, that's what he says. It's beautiful. So the Or HaChaim was Or HaChaim HaKadosh. He was a very holy person, and his Torah is really on a different plane. So he speaks about the first place is, it says, אלה הדברים אשר דיבר משה אל כל ישראל בעבר הירדן. עבר הירדן, the opposite side of the Yarden, right? On the opposite, the eastern side of the Yarden. So here, what's the Ever? Who is the one that came from Ever? Avraham Ha'ivri, Sheba me'ever. He also came from the opposite side of the world, so to speak, right? And we're called Ivrim, we're called the Hebrews because of Avraham. We come from Avraham Avinu. Uba mi'ever, he came from the other side. So today is like today's modern day Iraq, where he came from. So he says you have to adapt the midah of Avraham. What's the midah of Avraham? Yes. The midah of Chesed, the midah of Ahava, that we have to be loving one another, like we just spoke. We have to bring this Ahavat Hashem. We have to be Ohavim. We have to live a life of love. We have to live a life of seeing the good in others, of doing chesed with others. And we have to choose to love ourselves. Like we said, we have to be able to love ourselves. We have to be able to not to be stingy with our love. We have to give to ourselves and give to others. Be able to see the good and see the nekudat tova, like Rabbi Nachman says. Because we're not a generation that could take the tochacha. So it has to always come with ahava. It has to come with a chibuk. Shimshon Pincus also used to say, we have to feel the love of Hashem. We feel Hashem loves us. We shouldn't be down on ourselves. We should be looking at ourselves in a positive light constantly. And says a beautiful thing. He brings a story of Moshe Tzur. He was a commander in the 1960s in Eretz Yisrael, and he went to visit the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he said the Rebbe asked him, he was such a wise person. He was a big Baal, hashpa, mashpia. He was an influencer. And he said to him, if he's using his kocha to be able to influence others. And he says to him, no, I'm not prepared for that. So Rebbe asked him a question. He says, which side is your heart on? He says, your heart's on your left. I said, the heart's on the left side, right? So what's the strong side of a person usually? The right side. So why would Hashem put the heart on the left side of a person? Beautiful, so beautiful. He says that really the heart is not on the left side. The heart is on the right side. Because when you're standing opposite someone, their heart is on the right side, right? Opposite someone, the heart is on the right side. Really, the heart's on the right because the function of the heart is to feel. You have to feel the pain of another. You have to feel for other people. You have to empathize with them, he says. And he said the Rebbe influenced him, and after that, he went on to do more klal work. It was a very big, very big hashpah. The second thing is Hayarden. I'm going to rush through them a little bit so we get through it. Hayarden, milashon mered. That's one example. And mered is like rebellion, so to speak, right? And he says that really what's this mered is like a challenge. And he brings, Or HaChaim brings, says, Tova mardut achat belibo shel adam mimea malkot. One step of inner discipline, challenging yourself in your heart, of a person's heart, is more than 100 lashes that he can get from somewhere else. What's this talking about? Then when you have something that you want to work on, if you challenge yourself, that's bigger than anybody else trying to do it for you, forcing you to be able to do it. You pushing yourself to do something, right? You surrendering to your internality, to that part of yourself, the regret, the remorse, doing that tshuva, that process inside of yourself is more than if somebody tells you, you should do this, you should do that, right? We know when somebody forces you in school, like, You know, why don't you dress the sneers? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do this? It's different, right? We don't, you're like reject it. You're like, leave me alone, you know? But if you learn about it and if you recognize the erech, the beauty of it, any mitzvah, right? Then you're more apt to be able to doing it. That internal challenge that you have, that awareness that you have, that's sort of like rebellion, that's the merit, is able to bring you to a higher level more than anything else. A personal awakening, he says. It's like rebelling against your Yetzirah, you know, like rebelling against the things that bring you down, rebelling against those things that carry you to do other negative things, to doing avodah. And he says, one moment with authentic communication from the lev, from the heart, is something that's going to be able to last for a lifetime. He says, never confuse the power with influence or coercion. It's my inner awareness that brings me to be able to be closer to Hashem, to do more in my avodat Hashem. When I become more aware, not out of yirah, again, it's out of ahava, it's out of chesed, that I love, that I care. I want to do the rest of Hashem. He also talks about another word is also yarad, yerida, bringing us down. So this is the important part, is not to confuse the coercion, to be able to bring it from your own, to work on your own inner awareness. The next part is the midbar. What is midbar? The desert. The desert is synonymous with what? Which midah? Anava, humility. The desert is a raw place. It's empty. There's nothing growing. There's no vegetation. There's no landscape. It's not something that's, you know, it's plain. There's nothing, you know, extra there, right? It's barren. Simplicity, humility, he says. This is what we have to work on. That we have to be in a state of humility. That we have to, not humility that it brings us down, that we're like a nothing, we're shafel, we're lowly, but humility that I am important, I'm chashuv, I matter.
Chashuv, and I'm really sorry I have to go,
it's okay.
But I have to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Don't worry about it. So I am chashuv, I'm important. It says, Bishvili nivra olam, a person should be having one pocket. The world was created for me. Anochi afar va'efel. On the other pocket, you should think, I am like the dust of the earth. What do you mean? Which one is it? You're chashuv, but you're not like God. You know, you're not everything. You know, you still have to be in the middle of the road. The person has to be in the middle to understand his chashivut, but to humble himself. That's who Moshe was. Moshe knew who he was. He knew his ability to be able to influence Klal Yisrael, but yet anav mikol adam. He had tremendous humility. He didn't hold from himself. He didn't want the kavod for himself.
I think he also knew if he spoke to Hashem, like,
right,
of course he could be
right,
so arrogant and say, yeah, I spoke to Hashem, you know, you got to listen to me, but
right,
that's not how you're going to have people listen to
right.
you. It's to come from a place of humility.
Right.
Everyone is looking at him and they know he spoke to Hashem.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the next part, I'm going to go a little faster, is ba'arava. Arava from Lashon arev, from Lashon sweet, right? That sometimes when people are humble, what do? They look down at themselves, right? They're so humble, they're like, oh, I'm nothing. Oh. Humility should not be confused with self-denigration, like we just mentioned. I'm not a shmata. I'm not a nobody. I should understand the sweetness that a person that you have to offer. Sheteheh anava areva, Or Chaim says. The anava should be sweet. Umatzah chen v'sechel tov b'nei Elokim v'adam. A person has to find the nikuda tova in himself, so he should find favor in the eyes of Hashem and in the eyes of others. It should be sweet. That's areva. And it shouldn't be like, humility is not like, I'm no good, destruction, self-denigration. No, I am good. And it should bring him to be able to feel worthy, to be able to feel growth, to be able to feel a geschmack, to be able to know I'm not a nobody, I matter. What I say, what I do matters. Hashem loves me. The person has to say that, Hashem, that song, Hashem loves you. Hashem loves me. Even if I sin, even if I didn't get it right, even if I didn't daven today, even if I spoke Lashon Hara. Yes, Hashem still loves me. Every year we go back to Yom Kippur, it's the same, doing tshuva on the same avot, and yet Hashem still forgives us because He loves us. He's an Av Rachaman, He cares for us. So this is the place. He says, the place of the Midbar was a place of growth for Bnei Israel. It didn't like paralyze them. It actually brought them up. So the next thing is Arav, Lashon Arev. Arev is a guarantor. If it causes you to feel a chiyuv of arevut, we have to feel arevim zeh lazeh. We have to be responsible for one another. Yes, I have humility, but I also have to think about my fellow friend, right? I also have to think about others, not just to be in my own dalet amos and just about me. I have to be responsible. I have to feel the achrayut, that sometimes the humility causes us to sort of squelch our goodness and not to give to others. No, be able to give and be with Klal Yisrael. Arevim zeh lazeh. You're part of the Klal. You're not separate. The Baal Shem Tov says, very nice thing, also from Lashon me'urav. Me'urav is mixed in. That because he says Jews that are mu'ravim zeh bazeh, arevim zeh bazeh, right? They're sweet, they are arev to each other. When we're mixed in together, when we do things together, right? There's a sweetness, there's a goodness, there's I care about you. I want good for you, not just for myself, right? When we are together, we bring this sweetness on. You wanted to say something? No. So, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you so much for coming. You'll get the rest of it if you want on the Zoom. Thank you for coming. So, so if I don't feel the sweetness of, and in the oneness, there's something wrong. I have to feel that sweetness. It's not like, a responsibility, like, no, it's like, the person's really, I care about them. It's good, and it's good. I'm good, and they're good, and together it's even sweeter, it's even better, right? When we do something b'achdut as a team, you learn b'chavruta. When you go and do a chesed, and you do like, a group of people are doing it, davening together. That's what Hashem wants. He wants us to bring this sweetness. So it's sweetness, it's connection, and it's responsibility. The next thing is mul suf. Mul, in front of, suf. Suf is like sof, at the end. To face the end. The Or Chaim says, Sheyeh lemul einav sof adam v'tchilato. A person should always know the end of his life. What do you mean? Have to be like morbid and think about death all the time? No. It's a consciousness, again, a that, an awareness that a person has to understand that there is an end, but there's also a tachlit, there's a purpose. That everything I do here is not just for here. We don't live for olam hazeh. We live for olam haba. It says, there's a Tehillim that says, Lo ki lo bemoto yikach hakol, lo yered acharav kevodo. Right? In his death, he can't take everything with him. All the possessions and all the wealth and your car and your house. You're not taking all this stuff with you. Right? Even his kavod he's not going to take. What is he going to take? He's going to take his chasadim. He's going to take his mitzvot. He's going to take his tefillot. Those are the things that he did. So a person has to live. It says, Hodi'eni Hashem kitzi, in Tehillim Lametet, it says, Hodi'eni Hashem kitzi, Hashem, let me know my end, umidat yamai mahi. And the measurement of my days, what is it? Make me aware of it, because I know it's not going to last forever, David HaMelech says. And it's not to bring us down, it's to understand that there's, again, there's a direction, there's a purpose. Limnot yameinu ken hoda, we say it on Shabbat morning. Teach me how to be able to count my days so that I can produce a heart of wisdom. V'navi levav chokhmah, to be able to understand what I'm supposed to be doing. That we're not just here to just go about the daily, routine. No, there's a tachlit, there's a purpose. And he says that also, when you're living musuf, sometimes people might interpret this as like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. What's going to happen to me if I don't do this and if I don't do that? We live with like anxiety, right? Sometimes you live with anxiety if you think this way, right? No, not to live with anxiety, not to live with fear, but to understand, to align yourself and to understand that we have an eternality, that our neshama is going to live on. And we're not just here for this time. Judaism doesn't believe that death really affects the person because the person has a neshama. He has a soul, right? And that soul is a fragment of, we said, of Hashem. It doesn't die. He said a beautiful thing. It was very funny. He's saying a refrigerator is plugged into electricity, right? So you take out the electricity, the refrigerator doesn't work. Computer, electricity, take it out, doesn't work. Okay, it lasts for a certain amount, it has a battery. That's it, right? What if the refrigerator says, today, no, I want to be independent. I don't need electricity. I want to do my own thing. I want to be able to function on my own. It's going to die. There's no eternality to the refrigerator. It won't last. The battery in the computer is not going to last. That's it. It's going to die. He says a person can live in this life. He says life is divine electricity. Divine electricity through the body. We live not for the goof. This is Rabbi Jacobson explaining it. But he's bringing through the psukim that the Rechai mentioned. That we live through the goof, right? But our goof is connected to our neshama. We can't have our neshama without our goof. We can't have our goof without the neshama, you know? And when it's, he says death is not, he doesn't like to say death. Death is like the end of something. He says when you die, you're unplugged. You know what I'm saying? You're unplugged. Your neshama goes to another place. It's unplugged. But you're still connected, right? You're definitely still connected. Now you're already very connected. And he says that we have to manifest divine through the vehicle of our neshama, through the soul. The soul is pure. The soul is tahor. Neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. It's pure, right? You gave it to me, you blew it into me. But even before you blew it into me, tehorahi, it was tehorah even before. So that's mulsuf, to understand who you are. Don't detach your body from your soul and understand where you're going. You're divine. Number 6 is ben paran u ben tofel. Paran and tofel. Paran from the Lashon pe'er, splendor, beauty, right? What is the splendor and beauty? We're going to talk about it. And also tefel. Tefel is something that's raw. It says ki achal tefel mibli melach. Something that's tefel doesn't have like taste, right? No salt. It still needs repair. So on one hand, you have to live a life with glory, with beauty, with understanding and awareness, right? That also it needs repair. It's not 100%. We're not perfect human beings. We all need to be mitaken something. We all need to fix something. But there's beauty. He says, don't be distracted. Don't be stagnated. Don't be like, I can't do it. I can't, like you have to be able to function in the world and give of this beauty. He says like tov me'od, right? Something that's tov me'od. People think if it's not perfect, it's no good, right? There are people who are perfectionists. Everything has to be yashar, straight, like this. And if it's not like this, it's no good. No, there's tov and there's me'od. The tov is the good. Me'od is already the yetzirah. Too much good. Too much good is no good. He says perfection is what? He says, yeah. So he says, exactly. He says that perfect, it says me'od is the angel of death. Tov is the angel of life, of good. And me'od is the angel of death. That's perfection. He says that's where perfection is going to lead you. Perfection is the enemy of progress. You're never going to get ahead if you're always going to think it has to be this way, right? You have to understand that it's okay. There's improvement. And even if it's not 100% good, there's the middle of the road, right? The next part is lavan. Lavan is white. What's white? Purity. Something that's pure, tahor. Lev tahor bara li Elokim. Hashem gave me a lev tahor. Don't walk around being miserable. Don't walk around with all this negativity that you carry in your head. Like we said, that man with the reshut that brings his negative, frown to the reshut harabim. Don't walk around with jealousy. The Or Chaim here brings, you should distance himself from hatred and kin'ah and jealousy and tacharut and competition and all this stuff that's like contention of like, I wish I had that and when I have this. And she has, look at that house, look at that car, look at that dress. Like we're always looking at the other person and comparing ourselves. Don't walk around with this. It says, have a clear conscience. He says, have a clear conscience or kill it. It's like, or kill the negativity. Don't allow it to bring you down. And a beautiful thing he brings about, this is what happened when Yosef revealed himself to his brothers. The brothers recognized, right? Sort of like what they did wrong. He said, I need Yosef. Which Yosef? Achichem. Asher machaltem. Like, they needed to know he's their brother. Of course they know Yosef. How many Yosefs are there? What are you telling me? Your brother, and telling me that you sold me, like telling me all the details. But really, it was in order for the brothers to be able to have this consciousness and awareness of what they did, to be metaken what they did, to fix what they did. And that's really us at the end of time. Hashem's going to say that's when you get to this parsha, it's always like very, yeah, so many tikkunim. But when it says I need Yosef, I always I tremble a little bit. It's like at the end of days, Hashem is going to reveal to us. It's going to be very clear. Oh, you cry. It's very clear. It's going to be like, I need Yosef. Here I am, right? Ha'od avichai. Like my father's still alive. Yeah, he cries. Yeah. But it's supposed to. It says, we read the Kinot about the brothers selling Yosef, right? That Sarah Rugem Malchut, it says that they were metaken, the martyrs, the 10 martyrs, they were metaken, the sin of the brothers. Right?
It's also because, I don't know, for me, like I cry, like it's nice to hear that other people cry. That's nice. I feel like he says it with such dignity. Like he could have done so many, like he handles it with such dignity. And he hugs them and he brings them closer. Yeah. When they cry. I want to be like that. Yeah. It's very, very powerful. It's supposed to move us to be able to do tshuva. That's the whole thing. We're supposed to realize the end of days. That's what it is. Realize what's going to happen at the end of the day. So if there's going to be a revelation, it's going to be very clear. And it's going to be in front of us. And like, what are we going to say? Right? And Hashem is going to say, don't worry, come. He's going to give us a hug. I love you, even if whatever you did, right? But we want to be able to fix what we can in this role. We're here. And he says, don't let this negativity become like your enemy. He says, don't let your enemy live rent-free in your mind. You know, we carry this negativity. We let it live rent-free in your mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be in this negative stuff. He says that people carry on pain to the point that they end up not talking to people. They hold grudges and they carry this with them. So just pick up the phone and make a phone call. And just let it go, just for yourself. You don't have to be the best friend, but let it go. Send an emoji. That's not good enough. You know, during Corona, I'm mentioning something about myself. I felt like I need to do something. Like during Corona, when you're sitting in your home and you're self-reflecting, you know, it's like you have to think. Like if it didn't move you to think about yourself, your avodas Hashem, your avodah ben Adam chavero, then what were you doing all that time? You have so much free time. You know, you didn't have to go to work. You didn't have to, you know, it was hard. Right, perfectly clean house. Right, right. No. But I'm saying, what was the whole point of Corona? What was the point of this bidud? Right? By the way, bidud, badad. We read in Eicha. How is it that we sit alone? Hashem wanted to give us that feeling of that aloneness, of feeling alone. Yerushalayim was barren, alone. Nobody's in it. Nobody cared. I told you last week of my shiur that I went to the kotel during Corona. Don't ask how I got in, but I got in. Only people who lived in the rover were allowed to get in. Hashem loves me, and I was like, Hashem, I have to go daven. I think it was the fast of Tishrei, the fast Tzom Gedalia. Tzom Gedalia, and it was Seger. You know, you weren't allowed to leave. And I'm like, no, I have to go to the kotel to daven. I said, Hashem, let me in. I had a special shaliach, a malach, that let me in. And I stood there and I filmed it. And I told, the ladies, my shiur, I said, there was nobody at the kotel. There were like 3 ladies. There was 1 minyan. People were running to that 1 minyan, by the men. And I just cried. I was like, this is what Hashem's saying. That how could it be that Yerushalayim sits alone? Like it's alone. Like Hashem,
please. And you saw the divisions, right? When you went to the Kotel slowly, like had the divisions, and they only allowed a certain amount of people, and we're all with masks. Everything was like the separation. And it was like so hard. And now when I go to the Kotel, I try to be in gratitude and say, thank you, Hashem. We took away the division. We have no more masks. We're all together. There was a bar mitzvah celebration and I was there on Rosh Chodesh. And it was just like so special. Like just every time I go, I try to say Nishmat, Kol Chai, and thank Hashem, Hizmolet Todah, to be in gratitude. We have to remember what we didn't have. And really, what was the purpose of Corona? So during Corona, I was like, let me do some self-reflection. And there was a little bit of ill will that I had about somebody who hurt me. And it wasn't nothing that I did, but the person was, whatever, just like distant themselves. And I still carry this like pain. I was like, it's hard for me. It was a good friend, And I just said, I'm going to pick up the phone and, I'm just going to connect. And it didn't mean I'm going to be her best friend again, but I'm just letting it go. And I think I even apologized, even though, whatever. And I just let it go. And I felt like this was my, gratitude to Hashem and trying to do my tshuva, during the time of Corona. Really, that's what it's supposed to bring us, to do tshuva, to be able to distance ourselves from the negativity. Okay, the last two is chatzrot, for the end. It says chatzrot is lashon chatzerot. Nichsefa v'gam kalta nafshi bechatzrot Hashem. That my soul desires to be close to Hashem, right? In the chatzrot of Hashem, like Yaakov Avinu, the learning of Torah, to be able to sit and dwell in the courtyards of Hashem, in the Batei Midrash, to sit and learn. So it doesn't only mean us sitting and learning in Beis Medrash, but it means to be able to connect to the Torah. Never stop learning, never stop growing. And that's something we have to work on, is to learn a little more, take upon yourself, maybe Shmirat HaLashon, maybe some halachot of Shabbat, something to grow. It's a lifelong journey of growth. And it says even a Talmid Chacham, even in his 80s or 90s, is still called a Talmid. He's still a student of somebody. He's still learning. And the last one is V'di Zahav. Di Zahav is like Dai Zahav. Enough gold. Sheomar lezahav dai, the Ohr HaChaim says. Kol ma sheyesh lo sheyeh lo maspik ki'ilu hu zahav. That everything you have should be enough for you, right? As if it's zahav, as if it's gold, which is worth so much, right? Ezehu ashir hasamech bechilko. The richest person is somebody who's happy with what he has. So don't wait to start living until I buy a house, when I have this, I'm going to be happy, right? When I have my beautiful house, remember that cheer? I love that cheer. When I have my spouse, when I have that child, I'm going to be happy. When I have that shalom bayis or the parnasa, I'm going to be happy. Okay, and then what? And then there's something else that I want, right? So it's, we have to constantly work on this to be able to, enough, sameach bechilko, celebrate what you have. And he said, Rabbi Jacobson is so funny. And he says it with all like seriousness. He says, there's a bagel, right? And there's a hole in the bagel. So somebody asked him, like, what happens, to the hole in the bagel? Does the bagel hold the hole holds the bagel? What? They sell the holes now. He said the hole is only in existence because of the bagel. The hole is only in existence because of the bagel. Be content. Right. Be content with your life. Don't look at what's missing. Don't look at what others have. I have enough. Right. And the hole. Look at the hole. There you go. The other thing is the opposite way. Don't think that you need too much. Don't be a glutton. Don't want just the superficiality, just all the things. All those things are going to prevent you from growing. The more a person's worried about his, gashmiyut, he's distancing away from the ruchmiyut. I was reading a Dvar Torah about this week's parsha, that the whole avodah that we have, the whole sin that brought us to the destruction was avodah zarah, right? The first Beit HaMikdash. And what's our avodah zarah today? Money. We're always running after money. We have to have a career, we have to have money, and if we don't have, then I can't be happy. I can't be satisfied. We're always wanting more. And we have to be able to be on that level and this and that. Of course, we need money. We need to survive, and we need money to be able to do what we need to do. But the perspective, again, not to be too much of a glutton, not to worry and pursue the physicality. Be running after the spirituality. So I'm going to review very quickly the 9-step process. The first part is Ever, that we have to be working on our ahava of ourselves, love of ourselves and love of others, and do more chesed. Hayarden is to choose the inner awareness and persuasion rather than the outer coercion, right? The mered, the yered. The bamidbar is the anava, to be able to humble ourselves and to be authentic, to be genuine, to be who we are, and to know that we matter, not to let it squelch us. Ba'arava, to take responsibility, to be a guarantor, to stand up to injustice with humility, but it should be sweet, right? It should be arev, and we should be me'urav, we should be together with Klal Yisrael. We should be able to understand that we matter and that everybody makes a difference, and understand that we're separate to Hashem, but we're not. We can't be disconnected. We're divine. We're only unplugged, right? If we leave this world, but we have to have that message of knowing that where we're going. Ben Paranu, Ben Tofel, to celebrate the beauty of life between, right, the two sides, to appreciate the opportunity for real healing growth, and to cultivate a pure heart. The next one is Lavan, a pure heart, right? Lavan, purity of the heart, clear conscious. And Chatzerot, to learn, to work on our learning, to work on our growth in our life. V'dizahav, and to be sameach b'chilko, to really appreciate and understand that what I have is what Hashem gave me. It's enough. Not to be a glutton, not to think that I need more and more and more. And really, these 9 days, it's an opportunity, like we said, to work on these 9 different midot. And the beginning is ahava, right? Ahava, on the first day of Av, Aaron died. It says the yahrzeit of Aaron. It's the only one we're told the yahrzeit of in the Torah. Who's Aaron? Aaron's Shalom. Shalom is synonymous with chesed, with ahava. That we have to be like Aaron, Ohev Shalom and Rodef Shalom, and we have to work on that. And the last one is V'dizahav. We have to be able to repair the difficulty, the challenge that we have in materialism, in the world that we live in materialism, and that's really the midah we work on, and that's the last one on the 9th day. And Moshe gave us these 9 midot during this time, perhaps that we can internalize them and create a life full of depth, full of meaning, with the oneness of Hashem, and be able to be inspired and understand that hopefully this time period, that we work on these things and we'll be able to merit the binyan Beit HaMikdash, because we said each one of us has a mini Beit HaMikdash, right? We have a microcosm of Beit HaMikdash in ourselves and in our homes, what we build. And we have to be able to work on that binyan. And every time we work on the binyan, we're building the binyan shel mala, right? That Hashem, every time when he sees that we're building our binyan, he's building the binyan there, and he's going to bring it down. It's going to be completely built, B'ezrat Hashem. Yerushalayim shel mala, Yerushalayim shel mata, right? That's it. So we should be zocheh to really see that. And the other thing I wanted to say is that this week we read Parashat, the Haftarah of Chazon Yeshayahu. And it's a very difficult, hard Haftarah, because the Navi Yeshayahu is rebuking Klal Yisrael, all the things that they didn't do. And let me just see who says this. I think it's Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. He says Chazon comes from Lashon of a vision. We have to be chozeh. We have to see the vision. We have to see that on this day, each of us are shown a vision. What's that vision? Of what the third Beit HaMikdash is going to be like. That we should look at Chazon Yeshayahu not as bringing us down, but as wanting to yearning for that third Beit HaMikdash. It should be a chazon. It should be a vision of what is it going to be like. I don't have it now, but I want to yearn for it. I want to see it rebuilt, and I want to see the achdut. I want to see Klal Yisrael together. That's what a person should be yearning for. And all the things that we also are learning on Tisha B'Av. I will, B'ezrat Hashem, be giving a shiur this week on the 3 weeks, Wednesday night, and also on Tisha B'Av. Hopefully, it's going to be on Zoom. I don't think anybody's going to want to come in person. You're welcome to come in person if you want. If you want to break from the balagan in your house. And we're going to have a Zoom where I did this a couple of years ago, where we talk about, the pain and the sorrow, but the pain and the sorrow is not supposed to like bring us down to the point of like that, oh my gosh, we're never going to get the Bet HaMikdash. No, we actually get up from the morning, right? We sit on chairs, we start doing things because we're supposed to be expecting it to be a moed, a special occasion. It's going to become like a chag. The Mashiach is born on that day. So that means that on Tisha B'Av, we have to be with this yearning, this like, I want it, right? Not that it's supposed to be like, oh, no way, there's no way I'm going to get it. Look what happened in all the generations. And of course, we're supposed to mourn. The mourning of velut is the aval of what I lost. Aval, I regret. Oh my gosh, what did I lose? Look what happened, right? And whenever you lose somebody, you feel that loss, you feel that regret, you feel what was then, because now they're no longer here. You feel the chasel. That's what you're supposed to feel. In order for you to feel, oh, I can't wait to have that again. So Bezrat Hashem, we should be zocheh to see the rebuilding of the Bet HaMikdash, and we should be able to fix all the things that we need to fix during this time, so that we should come with, a complete whole self and a consciousness and awareness that we matter, and that everybody is important and chashuv, just as I am. And Bezrat Hashem, with that achdut, with that feeling of achdut and of ahava, Hashem will Bezrat Hashem bring us the Bet HaMikdash. Thank you so much. Any questions, comments?
Now I need to know something.
Yeah.
That's not a real bird.
Thank you so much, ladies. Have a great day.
That's not a real bird there. Right?
No.